The Realty Debate with Manisha Natarajan, powered by Reliance Home Finance.
Sustainable, managed, affordable, robust and tech-savvy. Smart, the word that made the biggest headlines today. Union Minister for Housing lifted the veil on the winners of the Smart City Challenge. 20 cities from 11 states and 1 union territory made it to the first list of cities that will be developed into India's smart cities. Terming the selection procedure as rigorous and demanding as the civil services competition, Venkaiah Naidu, Union Minister of Urban Development, looked happy and satisfied as he finished the first round of his job and passed the buck to the individual states and their urban local bodies to take on the gigantic task of transforming these overcrowded, very strained cities into modern centers of growth. And that's where the actual job begins. I'm joined by the most versatile and fertile minds in the industry to take on this discussion of what has happened today and how does India move forward on its big dreams of smart city. Jagan Shah, Director, National Institute of Urban Affairs; Shirish Sankhe, Director, McKinsey India; Karuna Gopal, President, Foundation for Futuristic Cities; Subhrangshu Pani, MD, Infrastructure Services, JLL India; and Shailesh Pathak, Executive Director, Bhartiya Group. Before I actually go on to my panelists, here is the list of the winners. I think we can keep repeating them till these names really sink into our minds. Bhubaneswar, Pune, Jaipur, Surat, Kochi, Ahmedabad, Jabalpur, Visakhapatnam, Solapur, Devnagiri, Indore, NDMC, Coimbatore, Kakinada, Balagavi, Udaipur, Guwahati, Chennai, Ludhiana and Bhopal. Here are the Union Minister for Urban Development on the criteria that was used to cull out this list of 20. Extremely important.
The list of the winners of 20 cities that are being announced today have made it to the top of the competition based on the implementation framework, including feasibility, cost effectiveness, which has a weightage of 30%, followed by the result orientation, 20%, citizen participation, 16%, smartness of proposal, 10%, strategic plan, 10%, vision and goals, 5%, evidence-based city profiling and key performance indicators, 5%, and process followed, 4%. That's how these 100 marks have been evaluated. The winning cities have prepared their proposals with a strong commitment to achieving the results and are based on SWOT analysis, SWOT. Detailed assessments of the strength, weakness, opportunities and threats specific to that city.
Well, we had to wait quite a bit here in the studios to receive that list of final 20 which you just saw. And before that, in fact, the minister spoke for a long time, almost defending or staging that selection process. He also clearly said this was not based, or the number or the cities were not based on any geographical consideration, and neither was New Delhi the decision maker.
Nothing has been dictated from Delhi. Nothing has been decided by Delhi. Nothing has been designed by Delhi. Everything is done at the urban local bodies level. We have only given them broad guidelines. I am happy to inform you that the total of 15.20 million, that is 1.52 crore citizens have participated in the preparation of smart city plans. This extent of citizen participation accounts to about 12% of the total population of these smart cities that participate in the competition. 12%. When the rise and fall of the government is forecast by professional psychologists based on a survey of few thousand people, 12% sample is very significant even by statistical consideration. This order of citizen participation is a huge success. I am immensely happy about the same. It shows how much people are interested about the future of their cities.
Jagan Shah, finally a smiling Venkaiah Naidu. I mean, positive news on urbanization, on real estate development, which we've been waiting to hear for a very, very long time. Tomorrow's headlines, though, are all going to question, despite the minister's insistence that there was citizen participation, there were no geographical consideration, New Delhi was not involved in it. But do you think that there was really no political consideration in the choice of lists?
No, I can certainly say that the evaluation was not guided by any political considerations at all. The panel of evaluators was looking at the merits of every single proposal, and that's why we could actually look at cities which were small and big and prosperous and not prosperous and so on, an odd bunch of cities you might say, and actually look at them on a level playing field and evaluate on merits. So there certainly was no political consideration at all in the evaluation.
Okay. Shirish Sankhe, what was the most exciting part of today's announcement? I mean, the list per se, or the process, how it was done. We've heard the minister also talk about the weightages. What, according to you, was the most significant part?
I would say three things. One is that only 20 cities were chosen. Okay, on one level you can say why not all 100? You could have started, but it's a message. It's a message that quality of proposal is what counted, right? So if it was 50 or 70, I think we wouldn't be that excited today. Okay, so it is the fact that only 20 cities were announced. Second is the unprecedented speed at which we are here today. I remember that consultant selection by municipal corporations, which are one of the slowest set of decision makers, normally took like 2 weeks. I've never seen it even in private sector. 3 months of preparation, pretty good proposal. And then the ministry taking no more than 30 to 40 days to announce. Okay, so it was a good feeling that it moved very fast. It took 1 year to design the smart city mission, but it took only 6 months to get here. Exciting.
All right, so 100 days out of 97, finally 20 chosen. Karuna Gopal, what is the most exciting part going forward from here?
See, personally, I am really excited for one thing that all these years we had to look outside of the nation to look for some best practices. For instance, we would personally, people in the ecosystem would look at a Mars Discovery District in Canada, or we would look at Amsterdam examples, or even look at traffic management using big data in Singapore, practically look outside of the country for things to learn. But now I'm really excited that India is actually going to generate, best cases and case studies, and that is perhaps the most exciting thing for me.
Okay, all right, let's go across to our Bombay panelists. Mr. Pani, the 20 list is out. You heard Mr. Naidu. From the perspective of urbanization, is it exciting? Is it really big? Is it just the beginning?
So I feel that I think there's a real good method which the government is following. I call it the lighthouse impact. 20 people select and do the first steps, and the world will be watching. We will be experimenting with multiple models, multiple projects which will get implemented, and the rest of the cities will learn from this. I think the speed, like Shirish said, is amazing to see that government can move when it wants at this pace. And I'm very much excited. We supported a couple of these cities which got listed, and I'm very much excited because there was a lot of hard work which the city level public participation, the municipal commissioners, their teams have done. I think that 100 days which you say was non-stop working for them to reach here. And I think the best have come up there from the top 20.
All right, Jagan Shah, the list per se, any surprises there? You said it's a curious mix, and I think everybody will be dissecting that basket of 20 and saying, hey, some of them like Pune, Kochi were a sure fate, Surat, these were bound to make it to the list. Some like maybe even a Bhopal, it might be a state capital, but is it a little, surprising that it made it to the list? Some of the smaller ones like Devnagiri. Just give us your impression on the list per se and the cities which have made it.
I think, one of our colleagues described it very well, that this smart city mission is pretty much the innovation lab for the urban sector in India. And if you look at it from that perspective, all 20 proposals have unique characteristics. They are of course all unique cities, and each of the proposals delves into what are some of the key strengths and possibly the key economic drivers that could be used in those cities. So if it's about surprises, well, I can't say that we are particularly surprised, because the process that we followed was really about handholding the smallest to the largest cities in moving on a path of very deliberated, very logical sort of process by which they moved from a visioning exercise which involved citizens right to a financing plan,
Right.
and followed that through in a very logical sequence. And what is wonderful to see really is that a city like Davangere, which I had never really known and got to know only through this process, has come up with a wonderful little proposal which talks about, they have a rice husk polishing kind of industry, and they have a small temple in the heart of their cities. And they've actually been able to come up with a comprehensive proposal for reviving that entire heart of their city. Or a city like Kakinada, I don't think people really expected, but actually property owners in Kakinada signing up and saying we will install solar panels on our roofs so that we can generate solar energy. This is amazing enthusiasm coming from the grassroots, so to speak, in our cities. And these proposals all capture in their own unique ways that energy which has really been generated within the citizens, within the local leadership as well, the elected representatives, mayors, commissioners, of course. I think hats off to a lot of the young officers who actually manage these cities on a daily basis. It's really remarkable what they've been able to pull off.
All right, thank you for correcting me. It's Davangere and not Devnagiri. So I think Jagan has been very polite and not pointing out, but I stand corrected there. So there was a method to the madness, Shirish Sankhe, wasn't there? So a lot of citizen participation that the minister talked about really swung it for some of these cities. And I think that's the beginning of another new chapter for India, where we say Indians don't have the DNA to respect their cities per se.
Yeah, I mean, as I looked at the criteria as we were preparing for one of these cities that is in the top 20, the focus on citizen participation was especially surprising but welcome, right? And I remember in a city like Pune, close to 3 million people were involved, okay, and the whole population is 5 to 6 million. So close to 40 to 50% people got involved, and not just for the sake of it, right? But the other part of this particular contest which I noticed and which was very important is that the word smart was actually a bit misleading, because the smart is associated with technology generally, but I think the government rightly put a lot of focus on what they call area-based development, okay? So take an area and transform it in all areas: water, transportation, electricity, solar, and so on and so on. And that, I think, can create some real islands of excellence within each city. That's what is exciting. Smart city mission is not going to transform a whole city. It will at least transform a small area of the city, but it can act as a great way of pushing this forward.
I think Jagan has a point to make on that.
I just want to take up Shirish on the use of the term islands of excellence, because I certainly think that the mission will not allow the islands to remain islands. The logic of the preparation of the plan is really that it's strategic, and you have to look at the replication of the successes you make in that area to replicate it across the city, and that's really important.
We are creating islands of excellence because this is the first time that we are starting the experiment, and I think most cities will evolve as islands of excellence, and therefore other cities will perhaps have to learn from them. Then we look at integration, then we look at scale, then we look at a pan-India smartness. I think I think that is perhaps the.
I think Karuna Gopal, what has excited me the most out of this entire process is what Shirish also mentioned. You know, this whole technology versus non-technology aspect of a smart city. In India, the beginning has been made keeping citizens in as the center focus. Citizen outcomes should have been defined in that in a way that, you know, those are the basic goals to be met. Isn't that the most exciting part of India's smart city story?
Absolutely. I mean, if you see it really, I mean, in the last 67 free years of India, I don't think we've ever considered the existence of a citizen. So this is perhaps the first time that we have asked them to contribute ideas. This is perhaps the first time we have looked at incorporating the wisdom of a citizen in the policy, which is really taking a leap of faith. and perhaps setting an example to the world around that this is possible, because 15 million people apparently participated in this, and such. I mean, it is really unprecedented, and I think we should stay there and continue the process. And another most important thing that we should do is, notwithstanding the happiness we are feeling right now, we should look at how do we actually institutionalize and create framework for continuous engagement of the citizen in policy delivery.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important part, actually blueprinting from the beginning and not repeating the same mistakes. I mean, there are many more cities which have to join this list, isn't it? But I can see Subhranshu Pani, he has a point to make as well on this whole process of shortlisting the candidates or the cities which made it to the list.
No, I think we have to just imagine that we've announced that we will do 100, and this is a humongous scale. And nowhere in the world is a city developed 100%. It is always done in bits and pieces, in one strategy at a time, in one region, one development, and it is always blueprinted and then extrapolated. I think we are doing the right thing by picking 20 first and then picking 4 or 5 key aspects in each, and then implementing and seeing what works in India. I mean, most of the knowledge which will come will be either indigenous in India or from abroad. We need to see what works where. It's a right balance between exuberism and rushing in, and doing the center of excellence, finding the right thing which works in India. Secondly, I think for the first time, the citizens' participation and the enthusiasm with which they participated is great. The minute they start seeing this implemented, then I think we'll get the voice of the nation coming and demanding things. And I think that's how a vibrant democracy should be, the citizens driving the democracy.
In fact, that list itself, Jagan Shah, will probably, the cities which have lost out in the first list and the cities which didn't even make it to that cut of 97 would be kicking themselves and saying, hey, look at it, look at the citizen power. We could have actually made it to the list if we had participated more, even the urban local bodies, the municipal commissioners. It's going to be a big conversation around this as well, isn't it, in the coming days?
I think I'd like to say that it probably should become a case of 1,000 flowers blooming, and cities may choose to become smart even if they're not on the list.
Absolutely.
And that's really what we're looking for. Ideally, the Smart City mission should set the precedent for cities to look at their context in a completely different way. So break away from business as usual, not be drawn into compartmentalization of interventions, not be drawn into a kind of, my baap kind of attitude where we expect somebody else to take care of our problems. So the citizens being involved and, in a sense, turning into a pressure group as well as we go forward is going to make a really important, it's actually going to contribute to the transformation that is expected in all these cities.
All right, so now let's come back to the smart city concept as such and why India needed to have that mission of 100 smart cities. Shirish Sankhe, urbanization, the number of people who are going to move to cities, the pressure it feels, and the potential that cities have to create economic value. With the creation of these, or at least the government giving a push to these 20, are you a little less worried about India's urbanization future? Because, that big, I call it the Bible, it might be an overhype on that, on urbanization in India, did create a lot of fear amongst us in terms of where we were headed.
I'm happy that beginning has been made, but it's a small beginning, as panelists are pointing out. The overall numbers are humongous. Remember that it's 600 million people, another 300 million are getting urbanized. The total capital investment required alone is $1 trillion, okay? And one of the cities that we are working on, the plan that we made was 3,000 crores, whereas the whole city actually required 75,000 crores. So there is still a 25 to 1 ratio in terms of the amount of money that will get spent, okay? So having said that, of course, it's not enough, it's 1,000 flowers bloom. I continue to say it will be islands of excellence, but I think it is creating a blueprint. What I'm most happy about is the blueprint aspect of it. We chose a 1,000-acre area in one of the cities, Pune, but you can see that everything was addressed, at least on the plan. I'll come to the challenges, transportation, water, sewage, right? Open spaces, pollution, right? So it was a comprehensive plan for that area. In fact, we got a lot of pushback from other parts of Pune to saying, why not we? But at the same time, even making a comprehensive plan for one area is something that India has not done before. Okay, which is surprising, but we don't really make comprehensive plans which takes care of everything. So from that perspective, I'm happy. But again, it's a 25-to-1 ratio, great mission, but it needs to be scaled up 25 times in times to come.
In times to come. So we're going to come back in just a moment. 10 biggest challenges to this big smart city story, which has, of course, started today, unfolded today. We are excited, we are positive, because after a long time, we are hearing or at least seeing a big policy move on something that this country really needs. Stay with us.